Welcome back into the GSMC Sports Podcast for our final segment of the day. I just wanted to sort of talk about this playoff picture as a whole now, and looking at the remaining teams, we are going to have a new champion. We're going to see a new finals MVP, and it's probably going to come from one of these young stars. Each of the four teams remaining has an all-star young player, from Jason Tatum and the Celtics, Tyrese Halliburton, Luka Doncic, Anthony Edwards, and we're in this new era of the NBA, so I just sort of wanted to talk about what we're looking here in general, because all of the main stars from the 2010s were eliminated headed into round two. Even before the conference finals, LeBron James, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Westbrook, Harden, Anthony Davis, Jimmy Butler. Really, the closest thing to it is Kyrie Irving, who was able to sort of hang around as a second star, which he's obviously still a very impactful piece of this Mavericks team. But if the Mavericks win the finals, I would be shocked if Kyrie won Finals MVP over Luka Doncic, and it's just going to show that this next generation has came out and put on some really key performances in some overall really compelling series, where 3 out of 4 of them went to at least Game 6, plus a couple Game 7 games as well, and it was powered by this sort of youth movement. There are no remaining league MVPs still in the playoffs. Now, I'm not even going to get into the whole, Luka debate. I think that Luka is eventually going to win an MVP, but again, as things currently stand, we are sort of at least looking at a playoffs without any of the prominent figures of the past era. And I think that, the NBA has been sort of soft launching what the next generation is going to look like with a lot of the commercials. Again, I got to look into it, but I think they were doing some type of a show or something about the rising guard and the expectations. I've seen commercials for it at least throughout a handful of these NBA games, and we're at a place now where we're going to see, we've just seen so much parity as the years have gone on here. Like I mentioned earlier in the show, the 2018 Warriors with Kevin Durant are the last team to win a championship and even make it to the conference finals in the next year, where it's just, again, time and time again, we're seeing how difficult it is to have that maintained success. And there was at least conversations with the Nuggets, take with it what you will. I don't really know how to evaluate it. I think it was a different conversation when the Warriors were every single year going on these deep playoff runs. The idea of the Nuggets sort of having the fatigue kick in for them, and that's part of the reason why, because they were playing late into June last year, that's why they were a little bit more exhausted this year. I don't know if I necessarily buy into all of that, but, not to something that I just sort of want to throw out there. I don't mean to kick him when he's down, but I talked about the underperformance of Michael Porter Jr., and obviously everything that's going on with him have to handle with extreme care, but he's had a lot of stuff go on in his personal life lately with his brothers that is just another example of how there are so many things in life that can get in the way of trying to be this dynasty and repeating on a yearly basis. It's just so much goes into it, and then you have the injury conversations as well. If you want to go back to, the Bucks, who won in 2021, the next year they came back and they were dealing with the Chris Middleton injury, who was their second best player coming out of that championship, and not having him, by the end of that, they end up losing to the Celtics in 7 in the second round. So there are just so many other things that get in the way that I feel like the parity is at an all-time high. And as we are seeing all of these different stars sort of come into place here, I just think that the league is in such a great place where you have these, mid-market teams like the Timberwolves and the Pacers, and the Thunder didn't make it to the conference finals this year, but all of these fan bases that are absolutely electric in these playoff atmospheres. We see the Pacers are undefeated at home so far through the postseason. All of these fan bases step up in a big way, and I think that, all of them still have marketable stars that make it not make it to the point where if the finals were to hypothetically be the Timberwolves and the Pacers, it wouldn't get great ratings probably, but I think if you're an NBA fan, there's still a lot that you can look forward to from a star standpoint. And we're going to get more tomorrow into the different types of matchups we could see in the finals and what types of storylines would be the most compelling. So I don't want to dive too much into that right now, but again, I think that all of these options are a lot of fun, and we're just seeing the NBA sort of transition into this next generation right before our eyes, where we sort of knew it was going on. Obviously, at the All-Star break, we had the conversations around who is going to be the next face of the NBA, and it at times maybe felt a little bit forced, but here we are now in May, and I think that whoever wins the finals this year has a great chance of taking home that face of the NBA, look, because it kind of starts with titles. Obviously, you got to have the talent, and the regular season accolades sort of come into play as well. But at the end of the day, it's about winning. And I think that Jason Tatum, Anthony Edwards, Luka Doncic, no offense to Pacers fans, I think they are probably a tier ahead of the Pacers and Tyrese Halliburton. And, I don't think that the Pacers necessarily, they have some very long odds as things currently stand. We're going to get, again, more into the previews tomorrow, but I know the Celtics, as things currently stand, according to DraftKings, are something like minus 900 favorites to beat the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals. So, I think that Pacers fans can definitely understand that this is just something that is fun to celebrate at this moment, but in the long run, they can definitely be a prominent team. But again, just seeing all of these players carry their teams to wins and do so, and I think the different sort of skill sets that come with each and every one of these players. Again, I know I mentioned they're eliminated, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for Oklahoma City, his sort of mid-range style, playing good defense, and being more of a score-first point guard, but does still have that playmaking ability when his team can actually show up. Luka Doncic, just a pure scorer, sort of like that James Harden level scorer that we saw for all those years as well. Anthony Edwards and Jason Tatum, I do think there's a lot of similarities in their game. The ability to sort of slash and impact the game as well when they are not scoring quite as much. I think that Edwards has shown a lot of shades that remind me of Tatum during this playoff run as well. All of it's just really exciting to see. And it's not going to stop there with just who we are, currently watching, where I don't think that any of those names that I just mentioned are necessarily going to be able to pull off any type of a big, I'm not saying they can't make a playoff run, but to the, gravity of what we're seeing from some of these other young players and in comparison to what they've done their entire careers, I think we're just sort of past that point, and we're only going to see more of these young players step up. Victor Wembanyama, for whenever he gets a competitive team around him, I expect him to be in that conversation as well. And the list really goes on for all this young talent, and I think it's really exciting to sort of monitor how this plays out. But let me know your thoughts on this next generation of the NBA. That is all we have time for today. Thank you very much for tuning into the GSMC Sports Podcast. Thank you to the GSMC Sports Network for allowing us to host this show. Remember to like, follow, subscribe wherever you keep up with us. Be sure to follow us on social media for more exclusive short content as well. We are live every 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern, so we will be back tomorrow. We will see you then. Take care. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.